I'd like to start this video off by giving a shout out and thanks to Samantha, a longtime friend, for requesting this topic. Samantha is currently an online health and fitness coach with Fuel for Fitness. Samantha's expertise is in figure training with a history of powerlifting, competition prep for both those, and also now women's health, as she's expecting soon. Fuel for Fitness is an online-based fitness and wellness coaching platform that has a personalized approach towards helping individuals reach their goals through health and fitness. And again, you can find Samantha over at Fuel for Fitness on Facebook. So since this video is covering shoulder scapular stability, let's get a review of our anatomy. So here's an anterior view of the four joints that comprise of the upper shoulder girdle. What's important to understand is that our shoulder girdle is only attached via the clavicle to the axial skeleton. Hence, there is a large and intimate role with the muscular system and how this pertains to scapular stability for providing a good foundation for the arm to move on. In this image, we can see an individual with an anteriorly rotated, anteriorly tipped right scapula, otherwise known as anterior tipping or scapular winging. This is often related to a weakness and or dysfunction of the serratus anterior, working along with a weakness of the middle and lower trapezius muscle fibers, decreasing the ability for that scapula to stay on the thoracic wall or on the thoracic cage. So the rest of today's video is going to walk you through a standing to prone to supine to side and some advanced techniques that I use in helping my clients, patients, and athletes improve in their scapular stability. Now, to note, most importantly, all these exercises performed here should be screened by a physical therapist or a movement specialist to make sure that the individual is ready to perform them. And second, you must understand that the progression is not to, it's not a straightforward, this is it, this is the only thing that's going to work approach to it. These are just some techniques that I use that are rooted in literature and have just some good tried and true tested outcomes with them. Also, this whole section of video is only going to cover closed kinetic chain shoulder scapular stability. Open kinetic chain exercises will be for a separate video. Thanks, and I hope you like. This is a standing progression that I like to use to work the posterior scapular muscles along different ranges of motion of the arm. So as that arm continues to increase in horizontal abduction, we start to see different changes of muscle fiber recruitment and a recruitment of the posterior delt and rotator cuff. So I like to start with a flat wall position and then progress to a corner. That just allows to increase some body weight onto it. As you see here, I'm performing these with a single leg now to really kind of add on some more body weight. And since these muscles are stabilizers, it's also good to perform these exercises with a bit of an isometric hold. So I'm walking through the same progression here, now just using a TheraBand to help call in that posterior deltoids and the external rotators of the shoulder, so the infraspinatus and the teres minor. And again, just following the progression into a corner, just add more body weight. And again, going back to a single leg position. So here is now a serratus anterior drill I like to use on the wall. These are wall slides. You can do these with a towel to help break friction or a foam roller. I'm using a wrist strap because I didn't have my bands with me today at the gym to perform this exercise, also with some external rotation cueing. This is some wall walks or some spider wall walks that I like to use. You can think of these as going up and down and doing some horizontal abduction also from this position. Or you can think of one hand as the main point of contact and the other hand moving around it, so kind of one has to act isometrically while the other one is working more concentric, eccentric. These are kind of wall slides into horizontal abduction, adduction. So this is a great kind of drill to start working from just that front serratus anterior along, again, with just more range of motion around it to a side plank position. And this is a little bit more of an advanced single arm scapular stabilizer that I like to use because it calls the tricep and just teaches you to use more muscles around that shoulder joint as your long head of your tricep does attach to the inferior glenoid tubercle. So I'm going to walk you through a little bit of a supine drill now. So performing a chin tuck head lift with some horizontal abduction scapular retraction into the wall, into the floor. Also using the band again to add just some resistance. I like to do this exercise also with a bridge pattern. So the starting bridge pattern is typically no weight. So from a bilateral bridge pattern to a single leg bridge. And what I really like to do also is to use a band, which I didn't have in this video, to perform some hip abduction to include in here so that we're getting also a closed kinetic chain activity of the hamstrings and the glutes as they do work together. So here's just a progression with that, using a foam roller to a single leg foam roller position. These are really hard to do. And again, I'm just driving my arms into the wall, into the floor to activate those scapular retractors. And here's just another little progression going from foam roller to ball. I happen to find that the foam roller is a lot harder than the ball, but if you have that band for hip abduction, it definitely does increase it. And here's just a variation with kind of single leg. Here's a posterior delt external rotation close kinetic chain exercise taken directly out of Primitive Patterns, Secrets of the Shoulder from Gray Cook, the gentleman who helped to develop the FMS, which I like to use. So here is another progression here back to the serratus anterior. This is doing a shoulder or scapular protraction, depression, and pulling technique to really help to activate that serratus anterior. Again, the progression with this would be without any sort of external rotation cueing or facilitation, and then adding some of that in there with the band as you see that I'm about to use. It's a pretty tough exercise. Just make sure that when you direct the patient or client how to do it, that the elbow joint is always in front of the shoulder joint. If not, they'll be successful at actually pulling themselves forward, and that's not the key point. And if you want more details on this one exercise, I can make a video or direct you to some information on it. So a good progression for that serratus anterior is to go into plank positions. So a plank position off knee, progressing to a plank position off knee with band. Right, pretty tough as you can see on my face there, to a plank position all the way on toes, and then progressing into a plank to pike. And the plank to pike just allows you to work more of that closed kinetic chain facilitation of those scapular stabilizers in an increased range of motion, going from 90 degrees up into and above 90 degrees for shoulder flexion. Once client or patient is ready, I like to progress them into plank punches. Again, not everybody can do this, so you really got to make sure you're screening carefully, making sure that you're just being very specific and tailoring this to the client's and patient's needs. So this is a really good scapular stabilizing exercise using a Swiss ball. My colleague Grant Shanks, which is a board certified orthopedic PT, kind of showed me this a ways back in using this ball to help to facilitate that serratus anterior. And I'm just going through some progressions here using some tension for external rotation and just going through different ranges of motion. Increasing it with a standing base plank position really helps to kind of synergistically bring together the whole anterior chain along with the shoulder. So here's just for purposes of continuity and just covering all angles of the shoulder. Here's a progression for side planks. So side planks on knees with threading, side planks on feet with threading, and then progressing from side plank to plank and back. And this is a good little drill that you can use with some of your overhead athletes, making sure that you're really getting that scap to activate. So here's a crawling progression that I like to use. This is a bear crawl. I like to make sure that all my again, clients, patients, or athletes who do a lot of overhead work can work on some mobility drills also for their hip and their ankle. So yeah, to be able to progress into something like this. So we just had some bear crawls, some functional crawls, right? And then we're doing some dragon crawls. A good progression to go into from here is to start to work on some lateral, basically just push-up position patterns that you can use, and progressing this into some walking, kind of non-symmetrical single arm push-ups forward and backwards, really helping to drive in some of that upper extremity, lower extremity patternization, and then starting to work on some kind of like beginner dive bomber push-ups. If I can get somebody to the point to progress them into these static or stable walkouts to push-up position, this is a great way to get them ready to start to go into some handstands. Though I don't regularly get any clients or patients that are capable of getting this far, this is just the progression. And here's some donkey kicks, a really good dynamic exercise to get that that serratus anterior and delt complex working together. So here's a Swiss ball progression, doing some walkouts, so beginner walkouts, increasing into how far the walkout actually is, and doing some serratus anterior scapular protraction. And here's a push-up to push-up plus, and then going from a static position for the upper shoulder girdle to now a dynamic movement, getting in those lower abdominal muscles and hip flexors. Now we're going into kind of a pike, half pike to full pike position. And if I can get them to progress into a full closed kinetic, a tuck to pike. So I'd like to just finish off this video. This is a little drill that I use usually on days that I'm working out chest. I like to do some alternating stepping push-ups to kind of get some of that single arm, more pec fiber recruitment, serratus anterior delt recruitment. I usually like to add in some arm marching, again, just good serratus anterior activation, kind of a reactive form to activate it as you're kind of using one arm to help push yourself up, and then you're using the other arm to kind of eccentrically load into. So then just some marching or step single arm push-ups. Those are pretty hard to do. And finally, good old Bosu. I do like to throw this in on a chest day, usually near the end. I'm not a huge fan of instability training, but it definitely does have its role, especially if we're talking about inducing large amounts of metabolic stress to kind of peak that protein synthesis muscle building. So again, thanks to Samantha for requesting the concept of today's video. And if you want to find out more information about her and her online health and fitness coaching, you can find her over at Fueled for Fitness. Again, thanks guys for watching this video. I hope it can definitely help to just illuminate some ideas and different techniques for performing some closed kinetic chained shoulder scapular stabilizing exercises. Thanks everyone for watching. Like at the bottom, please definitely subscribe as it helps out, and go ahead and leave any comments. Thanks, and happy lifting.